What's going on, my fellow A-Plusers? Welcome back once again to a brand new episode. It is I, your host as always, Adam Perez, here to celebrate Toku Tuesday with you guys here at A-Plus Morphinominal. So guys, thank you very much for certainly joining me today. Hopefully your Monday certainly went off well to kick off your week. Hopefully you got the opportunity to watch this week's episode of Zenkaigers and are now joining us for our review. Now listen guys, at the end of the day, these are just simply my A-Plus opinions, but I also want to go ahead and know yours. What did you guys think about this particular week's episode? Definitely let me know in the live chat or the comment section box below, ladies and gentlemen. And I gotta say, overall, I thought this was a really great episode. I thought they had some important flashbacks and just important moments in this episode for some of our characters, just to give us either a little bit more mystery or a little bit more depth into their character story. But I really enjoyed the theme here this week. I thought they utilized it well, and I thought for the most part the Zenkaigers themselves in regards to the Kikai really shined here this week. And of course, this episode for me, while I really enjoyed it, I think a part of it had to do with just kind of pulling at my heartstrings a little bit, and I'll certainly talk about that here in just a minute, guys. But overall, I had a fun time with this episode. I didn't really think that I was going to, because I feel like sometimes when I watch retro episodes, it's just a trope that I feel like is overused all the time, or maybe there's like a level of expectation of like the episode's not going to be that great anytime that there's like talk about going into the past, or sometimes people just do it just for the costumes, if you will, right? But I really like the utilization of the retro theme, and certainly how some of our characters kind of even improved and showcased themselves a little bit in just sort of a funny, goofy themed episode here this week. I thought it was just handled really well in general here. And you guys know when it comes to humor, while I don't mind humor, I just don't like my humor just always over the top. I thought it was actually balanced pretty well with some pretty fun, just witty banter and dialogue that we wind up having here this week, guys. So let's get into it as further detail for episode 15 of Zenkaiger. First and foremost, guys, a milestone in episode 15. I usually feel like when it comes to Sixth Rangers, usually around this time period is when we wind up maybe getting somebody brand newish. Usually I feel like it's just maybe at the beginning of the teens, you know what I mean? So the idea that we've had two Kaiser here for quite some time, it feels odd that we haven't gotten any new character here as of right now, but I feel like this series is just built around toys and things like that. So I'm pretty sure we'll continue to get just more debuts and reveals. I'm just talking in general about like a 6th or additional Ranger. I'm not used to the idea when it comes to Super Sentai having one so early, when I usually kind of expect one around the early teens. You know what I mean? So definitely something for me to adjust to certainly say the least. But overall, I thought Retro World was really fun. I had a blast with this episode, truly kind of going back in time. The idea of like just cool costumes, and honestly when it comes to the costumes, just really great choices for each character. I thought they utilized them really well. Like for me, Jurin was probably my favorite. I mean, Jurin definitely is just my favorite as a character, but the idea of seeing him just go back to like the classic 80s with the jeans and the jean jacket, like the jean vest jacket and things like that. Majin looking adorable as ever with the skirt that she clearly was loving. You got the hipster or the hippie in gown, which I thought was pretty fitting. And then you got Vroom over here looking like this English scholar or something like that, like Sherlock Holmes, with the hat and the shawl over him and things like that. It was pretty fantastic. Just some of the cane he wound up having in his hand. So really great choice, I think, for a lot of the characters. Even had Kaido kind of going back to the 60s with the bell bottoms and things like that, doing his best John Travolta impression. So I thought it was a really great like choice of costumes for the characters that they wind up doing. Even really loved the retro phrases that they were sort of forced to use towards the end of the episode when they were battling each other, when they were having their gigantic mecha fight. So I thought that was pretty cool that like every phrase that came out was like a retro reference to something. So I thought that was pretty neat also. So again, yeah, like I feel like episodes like this usually aren't for me, but for some reason this week this episode just really hit me, and I had a lot of fun watching it, honestly. But there are a couple people that definitely shined in this episode, don't get me wrong. Like for instance, I thought the Kikai themselves in regards to our Zenkaiger team really shined. I honestly love the way that they kind of came together as a team while Kaido was sort of out of commission, right? I mean, we see the retro world kind of going back and retrograding even further back in time. Like we went to the 80s and then we went all the way back to the 50s, and you see people starting to sulk and kind of have nostalgia and think about the past sort of thing. So while Kaido is one of those people that are just completely out of commission. I love the idea of seeing the Zenkaigers still manage to come together and be more than powerful enough and more than formidable to go ahead and take out this week's episode. So, yeah, I definitely do think that it allows them to showcase how capable they certainly are, even without Kaido there as part of their team. So I really love getting the opportunity to kind of see them all come together in this episode. Mind you, real quick, when it comes to the Zenkaigers, I did have an honorable mention for the gears, because we usually go through all the gears that they utilize for that particular episode, and this time they wind up using the Time Ranger gear, which I thought was brilliant, right? We get to see the retro world rewinding them after an incredible attack, right? We kind of went back to that green screen, type of thing where it's just all white with the explosions and stuff that they're fighting in front of. It's almost like they go into like another portal or world or whatever, like astral plane. I have no idea. But I love the fact that Retro World rewinds them, but they use the time gear to forward themselves, which I thought was just a brilliant usage of a gear this week. So yeah, Zenkaigers, the Kikainoids, definitely shine this week. But for me, the character that really shined was Yacchan, right? Can we just give a big ups to grandmas out there? Big props to grandmas everywhere out in the world. Grandmothers are something special, aren't they? Like they just truly are. Talking about the idea of this pulling at some heartstrings here, to kind of get a little bit personal real quick. For me, last week, guys, I haven't really talked to you guys about this, but for me last week, my grandmother passed away. She was my last grandparent that I had. My mother's mom wound up passing away. Her name was Lola. She was in her late 80s. She had been in the hospital for quite some time, maybe even going back to like last year, honestly. I feel like it's been a while since she's been in the hospital. And her health's kind of been deteriorating for quite some time. And, the family decided to go ahead and just bring her back home instead of it happening, in the hospital. They wanted her to be with her family and things like that. So she passed away last week. I feel like everybody that's reached out to me, friends and family and things like that, a lot of the things that they talk about is just how special grandmothers are, Not that you don't realize that. It's not something that you clearly realize that, right? Like even before they've passed, you really understand just how important grandmothers are. And so for me, it's just odd that this is the first episode of Zenkaiger that I've watched since her passing. And the fact that Yacchan, the grandmother in here, is highlighted and is spotlighted, And while I do personally believe in God, I do feel as though sometimes there are things that are thrown in our face or put in front of us that, whether that be as a message or just a reminder or something that just speaks to you, right? I always find that odd. Like, for some reason, like the idea of like if you don't go to church for like months on end or even a year, however long it is, sometimes it feels like when you do finally go to church, whatever the pastor's talking about, like just speaks to you, right? That's kind of how I felt about this episode. Like one of those things where, not that I needed a reminder that grandmothers were great, but after everything that they're just the emotional roller coaster for me, just up and down since her passing. The idea that this episode hits me, and it's a spotlight on grandmas, I thought was just really fitting. And I thought this episode did a really brilliant job of just showcasing the power of grandmothers and just how important they truly are in our lives. Getting to see that flashback with Yacchan and Kaido, I thought was great. I thought it was just a really great showcase to show that it wasn't easy peasy for Kaido, right? Like the idea that, yes, he's this positive kid that he is now, but a lot of that comes from his grandmother, because Kaido honestly could have gone down a really dark route, worrying about his parents the entire time, right? Wondering when they're going to come back, clearly missing them. But to have a grandmother that's going to be there to talk to you, right? To try and turn your life into the most positive thing that you could possibly imagine. I think that just brings great value to the Yacchan character, and just really builds her up even more. Again, this flashback I did two important things. One, you see the experiences of Kaido and the struggle that he is, and then now realizing how positive of a person that he is. That positivity is clearly just reinforced by his grandmother. But the idea of knowing that you may not see, for Yacchan, the fact that she may not see her son and her son's wife ever again, her kids, if you will, but still having to be there for your grandchild and give him those positive thoughts to push forward. Man, I think that speaks wonders to who Yacchan is, and to see her sort of take that mentality and help the little boy that we saw in this episode find his way. Some kid that was lonely and shy, which I can kind of relate to that. As for me as a kid, I was definitely sort of like that. Like, I would love to go to the playgrounds and play and things like that, but when like a group of kids would come by or more kids would arrive, I would kind of duck out of there, sort of thing. It was never easy for me growing up as a kid. So that shyness I can easily relate to, but I love the idea that it's the grandma that comes through, right? Picks him up, brings positivity in his life, helps him experience things that he never probably thought he would have the courage to do for himself. You know what I mean? And at the end of this episode, to see that the kid's gone out and made friends, and he's been, more open with who he is as a kid, and just things like that, man. I think grandmas and grandparents maybe sometimes can go overrated, but or can go underrated. But I do feel like if you have a great grandparent in your life, man, you definitely know it. And grandparents are super special, man. So I'm really glad that was at least highlighted here in this week's episode, because it brings back great memories for me and my grandmother and the things that she's done for me in my life. And I just thought it was just a perfect and powerful connection, something that I really needed here this week. So yeah, Yacchan for me really shined. And speaking of the power of grandmas, clearly the voice of Yacchan, or maybe the likeness of Yacchan, kind of stirred something up in Stacaesar. I wasn't expecting to see Stacaesar in here at all, but the fact that we get to see that now he's maybe on iffy terms with the Tojitendo, right? Not sure how he trusts Ijiroot, certainly going forward, with a lot of his stuff not really working out for Stacaesar as much as he wanted, which Stacaesar is to blame for a lot of that, honestly. I mean, the guy can't fight worth a lick. I mean, he feels very much more a lover than a fighter when it comes to Stacaesar, honestly. But I love the fact that he runs into Yacchan and this little boy, and he's immediately remembers his mother. Now, when I first immediately watched this, I was thinking to myself, wait. Are they signifying that Yacchan is Stacaesar's mother? Right? Like, there's even a moment where Stacy is standing there and he almost has to remind himself that his mother is gone. Like, I don't necessarily know if he looked at Yacchan and thought, that's my mom. But I almost feel like maybe just the sound of her voice, maybe just the likeness, the softness in her tone type of thing, right? I'm wondering if that, like, just how nice she was to him in regards to just being talkative and trying to help him out and whatnot, help get him involved. I wonder if he just gets those motherly vibes from her, and it just kind of reminds him of her. So I'm not under the impression that Yacchan is his mother, because even when you look at the flashback even looks like a much younger version of somebody else. And I wouldn't even say the facial features, just from the brief glare and stuff that we saw, was Yacchan. Even if it was like at a younger age, to have somebody like Stacy, who's probably in his teens, probably. I mean, unless it's the idea that Stacy and his mom, or like Stacy and Kaido, share the same mother. Maybe he sees a resemblance in Yacchan. Well, Yacchan did say that it was her son and his wife. So Kaido's mom is not the daughter. She's like the daughter-in-law, if you will, to Yacchan. So it feels like the father is actually the son of Yacchan. Because I was thinking, well, maybe Kaido's mom is the mom of both Stacy and Kaido, but I doubt that's the case, just because of the fact that Yacchan did clarify in this episode that it was her son and I believe his wife. So I'm under the impression that the wife, Kaido's mom, is the mother-in-law. What do you guys think? Let me know in the live chat or comment section box below. So I have kind of come to the impression that Yacchan's not his mother, but maybe it's just something that takes him down memory lane, right? We are dealing with nostalgia in this episode anyway. So maybe it is reminding him of his mother. Maybe the voice kind of reminds him of her also. And who knows? I am kind of curious to see what's going to happen here. But again, we're continuing to pull at the heartstrings of Stacaesar. If there is anybody that I feel like can turn to the light side with maybe a little bit more pushing from Kaido, and hell, maybe even Yacchan herself, I do think that maybe we can bring Stacy over to the light side. Come over to the Zenkaiger side, Stacy. So we'll see what happens here. But I thought that was a great moment for Stacy. But I want to know what you guys think. Do you think that what you saw in this episode meant that Yacchan was in fact his mom, or do you think it's just taking him back to memory lane and he's just kind of, remembering her and things like that? I would definitely would love to know your guys' thoughts in regards to that also. Let me see if there's any other notes that I wind up writing down in here. Quick honorable mention. Love some of the retro moments that we had throughout this episode, especially the Tojitendo transformation, or at least when he tries to transform and he's hitting just his wooden Geertlinger, his, I don't know what you would call it, like his ship spindle, I don't know, what do you call it, but I love the fact that he does the whole dance and then realizes until the end that it's not working. I love that even Jurin's like, wait, he just realized that now, like he just now noticed. I tell you, while the comedy sometimes can be over the top, I really do love the dialogue for the side banter. I mean, they're so on the nose of who these characters are with just some of the quirky comments that they make throughout the episodes. Sometimes when I go back and rewatch the episode for a second time, I pick up on more of that stuff. So there is like, while this may not necessarily be sort of my style of Super Sentai, how I like it, I do appreciate some of the comedy that is going into this, because some of it is pretty witty and pretty funny. And a lot of it's about timing and just knowing who these characters are. So there is a level of writing in this season that I definitely do respect, to certainly say the least. Last thing was the Tojitendo. I did find it interesting in here just seeing Gigi herself or himself kind of get in on the action. And he mentions the idea that he does it to test out like the Zenkaiger power and just the power of the Tojitendo. So it seems as though he's maybe doing some experimenting of his own, as we come to find out he's the one that sent down Retro World, because we see Bokawash just pissed. He's doing his classic boom, 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 hitting the thing, and you just see all the characters, falling all over the place and things like that. So I love that that's like a classic Bokawash move that you can expect almost every episode now. But I love the fact that it almost seems like Gigi's doing more work than Ijiru is doing, in the sense of like just being more experimental with like some of the monsters that he's throwing down there. Because I'm hoping that this was truly just a test, that like Gigi is gathering information and data to find weaknesses to eventually come up with something, whereas Ijiru's just been hitting and missing, just throwing random stuff without really thinking his way through. So I am hoping that Gigi meant what he said when he was kind of testing out the limits, or whatever the case may be, or their powers. Because I would like to see it have a little bit of a payoff. But I love just how immediately Bokawas, after scolding these two for sending somebody like Retro World so stupid down to the world, that the moment that he realizes that is Gigi, like his approval of the monster immediately changes, right? Like he's just like, you're such a good boy, and he's like petting Gigi, and he's so proud of him and things like that, so appreciative of the hard work that he's doing. So I just thought it was funny, not only just to see a different side of Bokawas, but that just immediate disapproval just go away once you come to find out that it's your pet that's doing all the hard work in this episode. So I thought that was pretty brilliant also. But yeah, fun episode. I thought it was a great usage of the theme in here. Not too over the top. I think the sentimental moments from Yacchan and just the whole grandmother appreciation went a really long way to kind of help balance out this episode. And again, some great development for Stacaesar along with Yacchan and Kaido also, just based off of the flashback that we wind up getting. But a ton of great stuff that I think came out of this episode. But I definitely always want to know your guys' thoughts. Remember, guys, at the end of the day, I want to know your thoughts. So let your thoughts be known in the live chat or the comment section box below, so we can continue this conversation after this video streams. If you love our content, do us a big favor, hit that subscribe button, hit that big thumbs up. That like button definitely goes a long way. And until next time, guys, we'll certainly see you later. So do me a big favor, take care of yourselves, take care of each other, and as always, keep it A+. Full throttle, nonstop. I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.